Hi Moonbeams, it's Nina. So I've been away for a while, as you may tell. And my style has changed a lot, so I'm just gonna quickly show you what I've been recently doing on Procreate. Slightly more semi-realistic, very arcane inspired, because who doesn't love arcane? Am I right? I wanted to do a tutorial on how I draw hair because I did the how I draw skin, but then I never followed up with how I draw hair. So I start with the face, obviously, and pretend that's a neck and collarbone, and yeah, just pretend. And the thing with hair, you want to start with the shape. What kind of shape do you want it to have? Is it gonna be long, short, and just start with where you want the parting to be. I just start with just putting a line where I want it to exist. And the thing you want to focus on with hair is that it's not just one straight line. Hair has movement, it has volume, it can fall, it is not just straight. So as you can see, I'm doing like a curve and it falls. So there is movement to the actual hair pieces. So please do not draw hair as a straight line. But yeah, just start thinking the big shapes. I like to see them as shapes as the front shape, which I'm doing now, the middle shape or the back shape, depending how elaborate you want it to be. So just to get your composition right, I found that that was the easiest for me to get my head around hair, was breaking it in pieces. So in this one, I'm gonna do probably two, the front and the middle / back. And then on the other side, I want it to be pinned behind her ear. So when you pin or like, you know, put hair behind someone's ear, it will pinch and it stretches. So do remember that when you're doing your outline, that there will be strands of hair pulling in and strands of hair pulling out. So once we've done the outline, of course, we go over with a new layer and we're gonna define that outline even more. I tend to do about maybe 2 or 3 outline layers depending how I'm feeling about how it's going. So I just vaguely want to put the shape of the head in place, nothing exaggerated. I'm also doing this in real time because I wanted you to see how long it would realistically take. So this is how long I would take from this step. And you can put them in the same layer, but I find having the body and the hair and the clothes in separate layers just tends to be easier for me if I want to make any changes. So the hair is in a separate layer, and as you make it fall off from the parting, there will be hair underneath, and that will be the darker shadows. So as I have it fall, I find this piece of hair like a ribbon. I've seen a lot of video tutorials showing how to do hair as a ribbon. So you kind of do your main line of hair, and then the outer end goes in and it goes out again. So then when you do bring in your shadows, each of the little triangle corners, we have shadows, and then the slightly bigger in between area will be where your highlights will go. So I'm just following the vague shape of hairs and adding some strands where I would think the hair would fall. Again, this has come from a long time of trial and error. So don't be afraid to get hair wrong and just practice. Practice with, if you want any outline showing, do you want to just play around with color? I've seen so many different renderings of hair and all work. So here I'm just working with remember, pinching the hair into the ear. And it kind of gives that effect that it's tucked in and then it pushes out, because again, hair is a thing that has volume. And then again, it falls back. And if you can see my lines, I kind of try and put the darker area, like break them in more shadows and in between shadows. And you'll see in a second. So picture, if you will, that this is where the darker shadows will be because it's behind her neck, okay? And obviously under where the hair falls out of the parting, again, there's a lot of darkness because it will create its own shadow. So if you're not very familiar with how light reflects and how shadows work, I would maybe focus on that first. because I feel like specifically light and shadow is such an important thing of any composition, and specifically hair. So just something to keep in mind. Now, what I like to do, what I've recently been into actually, is making the values layer. And the values is monochromatically, most of the time maybe in black and white or in the same color of your outline, to start shading in where the shadows will be. And this, what I really like about this is that it eliminates all the color confusion. Because maybe it's just me, but when I start thinking about color, I just get so overwhelmed with the choice of color that and I'm not very confident in my color palette choices. So when I start rendering purely by color, it just confuses me. So I like to do this step because it makes it simpler for me, and I can actually see where shadows happen. And I would do this on the entire thing at this stage on one layer. So your outline has to be on multiply, and then on the layer underneath, you want your outline to be the top thing for this. Then underneath, you make a new layer where you start your values. So yeah, here I'm just vaguely slotting some shadows, some lighter areas, just to kind of see where the place will go. Now, I've seen a lot of artists do it purely by color. They don't even have outlines, and it will be artistic preference at that point. But this is what I prefer to do. So again, behind the neck will be incredibly dark. But I've seen a lot of anime where the area behind the neck will have lighter color, and it depends where your light source is. But for a natural, like semi-realistic hair, you would do a darker shadow there because there wouldn't be much light going into that area because of the neck blocking it. So just basic sense of anatomy and how, you know, light would reflect through a human being is something a little bit essential for this. Not incredibly, you can just have around with it, but I'm going for a slightly semi-realistic style. So as you can see, I'm not being very precious about it. I'm just going for it simply. So I'm putting both of them on multiply, and I'm naming them because I may have forgotten. So the line art you want at the top of this. Then we've got the values layer, and then underneath the values layer you'll have your base colors, or your color. Normally it's base color, that would name it. And yeah, the values and the line art you want to multiply, and then any color you will put will be slightly on the darker side where the shadows will fall. So always go a little bit lighter than you would normally do so. Now, I know a lot of people tend to outline and fill in. That's probably the better idea than like drag and drop instead of painting over, but I suppose I want to do more work for myself. So I've not really worked that into my workflow, and maybe I should. Now the hair was a little bit too dark for me, so I chose the hue saturation and brightness tool, and I was just playing around to find like the color that I was after. Then over my outline, I'm gonna start bringing some shadow colors and going over it. Again, this is where your style comes in. I know some people want to completely remove the outlines. I particularly like having some outlines. You can also you can clip and mask a new layer above your outline and change the outline color. That's what a lot of people tend to do as well. I'm in the middle of it in between. I do paint over, and this is a color area you want to stay with. It's going to be close to where your main base color is, and then you're going lighter and darker in different areas. So the darker area will be in the middle of where we've already placed the shadows. So I already know that's where that goes because I've already kind of set that up for myself. And again, depending how stylized this is, it can be really strong shapes or it can be lines. I know a lot of people do like these weird triangle things. I tend to do like a long line, some wiggly in the middle, and then another long line, like a weird H. And that seems to work with me. But again, this is all just trial and error and preference. And the key to this though is seeing the direction of the hair. So you want whatever strokes you're doing to follow any curve or any direction basically the hair is taking. Otherwise it's not going to look right, because the highlight is reflecting off of where the actual hair is. So if you don't follow it, it's just going to seem off place. So I wanted to bring some more shadows into this. So I chose like a slightly darker color and added a lot of shadows, just blending it all a little bit more. I do find that there's a lot more shadow in the beginning of the hairline, and then as it opens out, it's not so prominent. So I'm adding hair strokes to again indicate the movement of the hair. And just emphasizing where the shadows would naturally be. I'm just adding on to the values layer really, and just helping that illusion of shadows and light. And this is, I think, what I tend to do is just keep adding and adding until I'm happy with how it goes. And here you can expand a little bit outside of that, because you would have random strands of hair fall outwards. I seem to find this the most realistic. I do really enjoy hair, I have to say. I think the eyes are my favorite absolute thing to draw because it just creates your character. But then I find hair is equally as important as the eyes, so don't skip on it. So here I wanted to add some really stronger pieces of just the highlights, and you can either just go big strands, or you can do small areas. So I've decided to go big strands with this and just like indicate where like really light sources are. And I'm going over the outline here. So yeah, you're just refining and refining, and you're just adding onto where the highlights would be, and just keep adding and adding to it until you're satisfied with what it's looking like. And I found that I go between strokes and then I blend a little bit like I'm doing now, and then I go back into strokes. But I do find that hair should take an equally long time and not just like don't rush the hair. Even if you're not going to add as much detail in the hair, it should still be given the right amount of time that it needs. So this is how I draw hair. Please tell me in the comments below if you would like any other kind of hairstyles. I'm happy to make any more. Or if you'd like any other tutorials, please let me know. But I wanted to just pop back in because I haven't been on for a very long time. I'm really sorry, it's been so busy. But hopefully I will try my absolute best to post weeklies. So once a week. I can't do more than once a week, but I will try once a week. I'll try some speed paints or more tutorials. But yeah, this is just like a generic kind of wavy hairstyle. But if you'd like to see any different hair colors or different kinds of hairstyles, please let me know and I'll make another one. I used to stream art. I've paused for a little bit because I've been in a weird art funk. If you'd like me to make a video about that, please let me know and I will do. But I'm back into drawing again, so maybe at some point I will start streaming art. But if you'd like to come and see, I play some games and you can just come and hang out with me. My stream will be in the description below. And if you're on your art journey, I hope it's going well. Keep at it, and I will see you soon. Bye!